On this Wednesday night, a teenaged terror suspect in Ottawa accused of planning to make a bomb. The explosives he's accused of using to target Jewish people. Colorado's top court dumps Trump from the state's primary.
The far-left lunatics are desperate to stop us.
The ramifications for his run for the White House. Searching for clues.
Why do you do what you do?
Out of love.
One man's mission to find missing Indigenous people. And a whale of a discovery.
We better start practicing.
How a conversation with a humpback could help humans communicate with aliens.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The Ottawa teen accused of plotting an attack on Jewish people appeared in court by video today. He'll remain in custody until his bail hearing next month. The 15-year-old was arrested last week on several terrorism-related charges, including communicating instructions for making explosives. Mackenzie Gray joins us with more on what we're learning about the investigation that led to his arrest. Mackenzie.
Jeff, Global News has learned authorities were so concerned about the alleged plot from the teen that senior national security officials and politicians were routinely briefed on it. Charges filed in Ottawa court against the 15-year-old, who cannot be named due to his age, allege he obtained acetone and oxidizer, key elements in making the homemade explosive TATP. That bomb has been used in numerous terrorist attacks, like in 2016 in Brussels and an attempted murder in Winnipeg. The charges also say he obtained metal ball bearings, frequently used in homemade explosives, to function as shrapnel. They were a hallmark of the Boston Marathon bombings.
To be able to stockpile weapons and things like that domestically, that takes a level of maturity and connection and awareness, which usually we don't see with younger people. The RCMP found the alleged ingredients during a search warrant executed over the weekend. But figuring out how to make this type of explosive can easily be done online, a major concern for police. And finding the materials is no problem at all. We're here at a local Ottawa hardware store, and we got all three key materials with no questions asked. Very simple. The cost? Only $150. When put together, a TATP bomb can cause serious damage. Professor Jimmy Oxley, who has advised the RCMP and FBI, researches and works with these materials.
We have chemicals that are built to kill bugs, are built to be bleach and clean. But wherever there's something good, somebody can think about how to do something bad.
The Ottawa teen's alleged plan to attack the Jewish community dates back to on or about October 24th, according to court documents. But sources tell Global News the high schooler was believed to have been radicalized prior to the Israel-Hamas conflict. The teen also had trips planned to visit family in Iraq both before and after the conflict started, but never went on a trip planned with his father.
His mother promised him to take him to Iraq last year. She couldn't make it. I don't care. I spent all the money. I borrow money. I want to take him.
The teen's next court appearance will be on January 15th for a bail hearing, Jeff. But until then, he'll stay in police custody.
Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa. Thanks, Mac. The Israeli Prime Minister delivered a dire message to Hamas today, telling them they have two options: surrender or die. In the brief video statement, Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel's war on Hamas would continue until the end, vowing that Hamas will be eliminated. This as UNICEF warns clean water in Gaza is running out, and many more children will die from deprivation or disease in the coming days. A vote at the UN Security Council calling for another break in the fighting was delayed for the third time this week. U.S. President Joe Biden told reporters that at this point, there's no expectation of a hostage deal, but the U.S. is pushing for one. Crystal Goomansingh reports on the humanitarian crisis and the latest push for a pause in the fighting, and a warning some of these images are distressing.
Moments after multiple strikes hit Rafah, the search for survivors began. This collapsed building was said to be home to many families, including those who had fled to the south as directed by Israel. All of a sudden, the first rocket landed, says this man, destroying everything. His family managed to escape, taking with them this little girl. She was born 3 days ago. The airstrikes near the Kuwait hospital were captured by an Al Jazeera news crew during a live report.
Oh my God, did you hear that?
Yes, we did.
Oh my God! That's the hospital. That's the hospital.
In the last week, during visits by high-ranking Americans, there was talk about Israel lowering the intensity of its campaign and using more precise strikes to protect civilians. Fierce fire is how Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described his nation's operations in Gaza, telling Hamas fighters to surrender or die. We are continuing the war to the end. It will continue until Hamas is eliminated, until victory. Whoever thinks that we will stop is detached from reality. The American Secretary of State called the images coming out of Gaza gut-wrenching.
We hear many countries urging the end to this conflict, which we would all like to see. I hear virtually no one saying, demanding of Hamas that it stop hiding behind civilians.
Talks are reportedly in the works for another humanitarian pause in fighting that would allow for hostages to be traded and for aid to be safely delivered across Gaza. However, an agreement does not appear to be imminent. Jeff?
Crystal Goomansingh in London. Thanks, Crystal. A senior Hamas official says the group is watching the growing calls from Western governments to end the attacks on Gaza. In a video posted on Monday, the Hamas leader specifically praised the joint statement released last week by Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, calling for a sustainable ceasefire.
We welcome these developments and consider them in the right direction.
Canada considers Hamas a terrorist organization. Canada voted last week in support of a non-binding UN resolution calling for a ceasefire. The death toll in Gaza has now reached 20,000, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. India's prime minister is breaking his silence, addressing for the first time the allegations that his government directed a foiled plot to murder a Sikh separatist leader in the United States. Narendra Modi told the Financial Times newspaper, if a citizen of ours has done anything good or bad, we are ready to look into it. Our commitment is to the rule of law. Last month, the U.S. Justice Department said an Indian government official had directed the plot to kill a dual citizen of the U.S. and Canada. That came 2 months after Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau alleged there was credible evidence linking India's government to the shooting death of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar in BC. India fiercely rejected Ottawa's accusations. We'll take a look at this drone footage revealing the scale of devastation in northwest China after a magnitude 6.2 earthquake on Monday. At least 130 people were killed and thousands of homes destroyed. Freezing cold temperatures are now compounding the misery for the more than 87,000 people who've been displaced. Many of them now sleeping in tents while temperatures plunge to minus 15 degrees Celsius. A court decision in the U.S. could upset the already tumultuous 2024 presidential election campaign. Colorado's Supreme Court ruled that Donald Trump is disqualified from appearing on the ballot and ineligible to hold office again. The decision stems from his role in the storming of the U.S. Capitol 3 years ago. Jackson Proskow on what this means for Trump's Republican nomination bid.
Campaigning like a man without worry, Donald Trump wouldn't directly address the court ruling that could end his presidential ambitions.
It's no wonder crooked Joe Biden and the far-left lunatics are desperate to stop us by any means necessary.
Late Tuesday, Colorado's Supreme Court disqualified Trump from holding office again. The court removed him from the state's Republican primary ballot.
We will never give up. We will never concede.
All because of his role in the storming of the U.S. Capitol after he lost the 2020 election.
It is a lawsuit brought by Republicans and independents to enforce state law and the Constitution in Colorado.
Colorado lawyer Eric Olson brought the case on behalf of a group of voters.
Engaging in insurrection after having taken an oath is disqualifying under our Constitution.
Trump has vowed to appeal all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, where the conservative majority could overturn the decision. The current president and Trump's likely opponent in November is treading carefully.
We'll let the court make that decision. But he certainly supported an insurrection. There's no question about it.
If the U.S. Supreme Court upholds the decision, it could be disastrous for Trump. Several other states have hinted they too could follow suit and remove him from their ballots. The High Court already faces a laundry list of cases relating to Trump's future and may also be asked to decide whether the former president is immune from prosecution, a case Trump is trying to delay.
Our Constitution commands no armies. It has no police force. It relies on citizens and judges to ensure that we live in a nation of law and not under one man.
That one man is now testing the limits of the law, raising the difficult question of whether the courts or voters should decide who's eligible to lead. Jackson Proskow, Global News, Washington.
The union coalition representing 420,000 public sector workers, including teachers in Quebec, warns it will go on an unlimited strike in the new year if a deal isn't reached in the coming days. They're calling on the provincial government to do more to break the deadlock in negotiations.
I think that the government should feel trapped, and they are fully accountable of that. If they want to see an improvement, if they want to work in a reasonable way with us, there's a way to do it, and the next hours are very important.
The Labour Coalition, known as the Common Front, represents public health, education, and social service workers. They're asking for better working conditions and inflation-adjusted pay. An unlimited strike, meaning a strike with no end date, would close all public schools in Quebec indefinitely and cause more delays in the healthcare system. Toronto police made a dramatic arrest today involving a chase, car crash, and an alleged abduction. Police say the driver of this stolen U-Haul was chased by police cruisers and a helicopter. It ended in a collision where a 49-year-old man was arrested. Another person was rescued after police say they were abducted by the suspect at gunpoint. Police believe the same suspect was responsible for stabbing and seriously injuring an off-duty police officer a couple of weeks ago. A volunteer hoping to help families in agony. Coming up, one man's dedication to tracking down missing Indigenous people. A First Nations man is volunteering his time to search for missing Indigenous people. Their families say police haven't done enough to look for their loved ones. His dedication has taken him across the country, triggering police investigations along the way. Neethu Garcha takes us to northern BC, near Prince George, where the man known as Makwa Bear is helping families get answers.
This is the Eagle song. Makwa Bear says it represents love. He sings half of it when he starts a search for a missing Indigenous person. And he only finishes the song when a search is complete. He says in some cases it's dangerous work and has led to threats. We agreed to conceal his identity.
Right here is where you found our first stuff.
Now visiting it with a devastated father.
This is where my baby was.
This is the site where Makwa Bear last sang the rest of the Eagle song. On November 5th, 2 days into his search, he found the personal belongings of Chelsea Heron. Officers were called in and a police canine found her remains. Heron's cause of death is under investigation. The family feels the circumstances are suspicious.
Found my daughter's wallet, her ID, her clothes.
They say Bear filled a gap when police didn't do enough to search for the 29-year-old. She was last seen leaving her father's residence here on Saikaz First Nation, about 900 kilometers north of Vancouver, during the early morning hours of October 11th.
It took an outsider to come from far away to find her. We wouldn't have had the closure if it wasn't for him, and he doesn't ask for anything.
Vanderhoof RCMP is under investigation by the province's police watchdog. The RCMP says its resources were engaged whenever possible and every lead was followed. They confirmed a volunteer was responsible for finding Heron's belongings, leading them to her body.
And these people prayed and I came.
Why do you do what you do?
Out of love. I'm not here to make friends, and I'm not here to solve anything. I'm here to look for your loved one.
The man from White Dog First Nation in Ontario says a spiritual awakening 4 years ago guided him to this work. He's since led 15 searches in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, and BC.
I hitchhike from town to town.
He says each community he visits helps pay for his food and lodging. He's working to fundraise to help cover the costs of his travel and an ATV.
Anytime I feel like giving up, but I'm not going to give up. I'm going to do this forever until I'm done on this earth.
And like the song bookending each search, he says his work is rooted in traditional Indigenous knowledge, a way of life focused on love for community above all else. Neetu Garcha, Global News, Saikaz First Nation.
Advertising battle. Still ahead, the similarities between Pierre Poilievre's ad campaign and Justin Trudeau's back in 2015. The federal Liberals are launching a new series of attack ads in 18 Tory-held ridings, claiming Conservatives are turning their backs on Ukraine after the party voted against an updated trade deal with the war-torn country. It's the latest in a Liberal push to target Pierre Poilievre after the federal Conservatives ran a multi-million-dollar ad campaign earlier this year. David Aiken reports on the impact and influence of a new political ad campaign battle.
It's time for a change in this country.
In 2015, these political ads helped push Justin Trudeau's Liberals to a majority government.
The 2015 Trudeau ads were among the best we've ever tested.
Pollster Greg Lyle tested those ads by asking 1,000 Canadians what they thought of them. This month, he did the same thing, asking another 1,000 Canadians about a new series of political ads, this time featuring Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre.
I'm Pierre Poilievre, and this is my story. I was born to...
Lyle's polling looked at the emotional response to the ads. Is a viewer more or less hopeful after seeing the ad? More or less angry? He says the Conservative ads test even better than the 2015 Liberal ads.
What we're seeing with Poilievre is that Poilievre is doing in 2023 what Trudeau did in 2015. He's now grabbing the hope agenda. He's becoming the party of hope. And Trudeau's now become the party of the status quo.
In some, Pierre Poilievre uses the same direct-to-camera approach
when my parents would walk out this door to work as
that Justin Trudeau used in 2015.
I'll lead this country with a new plan for our economy.
A technique that worked then and is working now.
But if you look at these ads, people that support all the other opposition parties to the Tories, all their opponents, the supporters of all those parties say they like those ads and they agree with what the ads are saying. And that is unusual. And that is one of the things that made the 2015 Liberal ads stand out.
And so, for the first time since Trudeau became Liberal leader, the Liberals this fall launched paid negative ads attacking Poilievre, trying to paint him as a northern Donald Trump.
Fake news.
Fake news.
The left-wing censorship regime.
Their woke censorship ideology. And divide Canadians.
Those Liberal attack ads were online only, and their impact is yet to be measured, but the first ever appearance of a Liberal attack ad was a clear recognition by that party that the Conservative branding campaign was working a little too well for the Liberals' comfort. Jeff.
David Aiken in Ottawa. Thanks, David. Up next, how a deep-sea discovery could unlock the secret to communicating with animals. The massive volcanic eruption in southwestern Iceland is easing. There are now 3 vents spewing lava, down from 5 when it started erupting on Monday. People are still being told to stay away, and it's not known yet whether any homes have been destroyed. Artificial intelligence could soon help us to understand how animals communicate. Scientists are testing the theory on whales, using AI to translate the noises they make into words. Eric Sorensen explains how it could one day help humans communicate with life on another planet.
There's just a brief glimpse of Twain, a humpback whale off Alaska. Scientists played a recorded humpback signal, and 10 seconds later, Twain answered. The conversation from 2021 lasted a remarkable 20 minutes as the whales circled the boat. A new paper suggests it's the first such communicative exchange between humans and humpback whales in the humpback language.
It's a window into possibilities of how we might learn more about how other animals in general, and humpback whales in particular, communicate.
Humans have barely scratched the surface of understanding other species, the sing-song of humpbacks, the whistle exchanges of dolphins, and the clicks of sperm whales. The Cetacean Translation Initiative hopes artificial intelligence will make a difference. The project is creating a vast research area off Dominica, where different pods of sperm whales live. The sea floor will be rigged with listening devices spanning some 20 kilometers. Soft robots like robotic fish will move among the whales to make audio-visual recordings. The basic goal, listen to millions of whale vocalizations, and with AI, translate what they might be communicating and ultimately exchange ideas.
The AI tools can help us to decipher what they're saying to each other.
Tom Mustel once narrowly escaped death when a humpback lurched onto his kayak. His research suggests species are closer than ever to understanding one another.
Suddenly we're realizing that there are neighbors and that maybe we have a chance to understand what they're saying in their lives and maybe even communicate with them.
Talking to whales could broaden our narrow grasp on communicating to prepare us eventually for extraterrestrial contact.
We better start practicing on all the communication systems on Earth, because we are not ready right now to get the communication in case we get an extraterrestrial signal.
Someday, the stewardship of the planet may benefit from what the smartest mammals on land and in the sea can learn from each other. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
And that is Global National for this Wednesday. I'm Jeff Semple. Tonight's Your Canada, these boats lit up in Port de Grave Peninsula, Newfoundland and Labrador. We love seeing Your Canada, so please keep emailing your photos to viewers@globalnational.com. Thanks for watching. Farah Nasser will be at the anchor desk with you tomorrow. Have a great night.